It is an honor today to have Max Traylor on the podcast. Max grew up with a digital, scalable, residual business mantra and applied that mindset to help brilliant people break through the time for dollars plateau. His clients call him an idea guy, a business coach, a thinking partner, and a product creator. He helps agencies productize their consulting services and do some other things better too. He's the author of the Agency Survival Guide and the Consultant Survival Guide, and the host of Beers with Max, a podcast where authors, speakers, consultants, and agency owners share how they've turned their expertise into a digital, scalable, and residual money-making machine. Max, I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for being on the show.
I'm thrilled. And we're actually, it's during today's quiet time as the kids are in kindergarten.
It's exciting.
We timed it perfectly.
Well done.
Welcome to Catalytic Leadership, the podcast designed to help leaders intentionally grow and thrive. Here is your host, author, and leadership and executive coach, Dr. William Attaway.
I'd love to start with you sharing a little bit of your story with our listeners, particularly around your journey and your development as a leader. How did you get from where you started to where you are?
Well, I guess when I was 5, I'd walk into my dad's office and ask him where he made the money. This was before people worked from home. But he said, "No, Max, you can't, I'm not printing money." I was looking at his printer thinking he was actually like printing money. He said, "No, that's illegal, but I have a digital, scalable, residual." But I didn't know what those were, way too big of words. So he said, "Well, I do something once and I get paid forever. And that's why we can go to Disney World. By the way, do you want to go to Disney World?" So I had this incredible childhood and exposure to this mindset of you can put your personal life first and you can build a business around your personal life. He'd play tennis all day, go to Disney World, whatever. And so when I got into adult land, I didn't see that anywhere. It was like, yeah, you can do what you want, like maybe on the weekends. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, you can kiss that goodbye.
That's right.
So I was sort of like stuck between what I grew up with and then what society was telling me was like, you have to work, you sacrifice so that one day you can retire from sacrifice. And as I was running this marketing agency, which is quite possibly the like worst sacrificial business model you could think of, professional services, linear growth, highly competitive and commoditized in a lot of ways, low margin, extremely difficult on the personal life. Every year I'd hit my goals in revenue and headcount, which apparently is how they measure worth at, their big conferences when they're shaking their pom-poms. Every time I felt like I was supposed to be celebrating, my personal life was getting worse. Darker circles under my eyes. But I discovered that there was a part of the business that didn't play by the same rules. Strategy, thinking, planning, advisory, consulting, all these different words that amount to helping companies make decisions. Not the doing of things, which everyone can do. At the time, it was the gig networks that were coming online. And there was this proliferation of training content. So no shortage of people that could do the things. And now AI has sort of taken things that it can take, and it will continue to do that. So you're left with this business model of charging for thinking, charging for knowledge. That's what we did. I mean, I started charging for knowledge. People were treating me like a big boy. I was 23 running this company. I was invited to the decision maker table. And so we started to shift our business model towards strategy and thinking. And then I had the opportunity to license that process that we had created to other agencies all around the world. That's when the light bulb went off, because I realized that professional services business are sitting on the solution, but they're not charging for it and they can't see it very clearly. And that is their knowledge. How do they monetize their knowledge? That's number one. And then second is you can monetize it in different ways. you can diversify your business model by offering it high ticket, low volume to leadership teams. You can you can facilitate cohorts or groups of your ideal clients to run through the same process. You can license that intellectual property to hundreds of companies at a time, but it requires that you rally around a single definition of your body of knowledge, and then dedicate yourself to conversations and relationships with the people that will pay the most for that. That's where I've been the last 10 years. And I've been lucky enough to maintain my focus on designing these consulting services and the other packaging of how to monetize it. And it's been a fun journey. And like you said, I've drank a lot of beer with really, really smart people along the way. And so now I'm basically just regurgitating smart things that other people have said, but aren't we all?
That's I say this all the time. So much of what we share is what we've learned from other people. We're standing on their shoulders.
Cheers.
The beers, the Beers with Max podcast. Like, tell me, why did you start that?
So when I went out on my own, there was a CEO that I really admired, and he was one of the first people to hire me. And I went to, every month he would get people together at this bar in Boston, and he'd rent out the whole thing. And I went to that, and it was all these business owners, and have a couple beers and talk about business. Actually talk about business, like the real challenges, like they're, lamenting about the employees that they can't stand. And I was like, this is a really fun business conversation. So I said, that's what I want. I want, that's what I want to like organize, but I don't want to leave my house. And so the original Beers with Max was like an online get together of people in the agency space, and we'd have a beer and just share what we were thinking. I accidentally recorded it one day. Somebody said, "Hey, this sounds like a podcast. You should make it a podcast." So that, then it was a podcast for a few years. And now, there's a lot more podcast material, and I like using video. So right now my format is just to interview people, and use very short video clips on LinkedIn so that one of my interviews can become, months of content that both they and I can share and talk about some specific things and grow our network that way. And then maybe 5 years ago, I started looking at the most popular clips, and I turned that into my first book, Agency Survival Guide. And that's sort of been the yearly MO, is to take the topics and the people that have been most popular with my audience and stick it between two covers, and and sound really smart because I have these books, but you open the books, it's just a bunch of other smart people in there and what they've said. Don't tell anybody.
That's great.
But yeah, a dedication to learning from the people that you want to add value to. That's all this is. It's whether it's Beers with Max or the books or the studies that I've done. I don't know how else to get good at something.
Well, I think it's brilliant. I mean, I talk a lot about being a perpetual student in your field, and you are so intentional about that. And I think the books, the podcast, these are outgrowths of that intentionality that begins with you. This stuff doesn't just happen. You don't just happen to have these conversations and then happen to have a book pop out or happen to have a podcast. Like, you've been intentional with this. I'm curious, what are some things that you have learned that have been things that you've applied in your own business, in your own practice?
Well, after 10 years, the number one thing that I learned is you can be successful with terrible ideas. And you can fail with the best ideas. Like I have seen some things take off. They're like, really? Like that? You're making millions of dollars on that? And so it gives you the perspective of like, why do we spend so much time trying to get the offer perfect? When like we're going to live and die by the relationships that we create. That's all business is. So if you're not out there creating the right relationships, listening to the right people, stumbling on those one or two people that could make, that could turn everything around for you. So yeah, it's all a game is what I learned. And it's how you play it that matters, not the not how smart you are, or the, you know, the brilliant idea. We're not inventing the cure for cancer. I mean, we're in like marketing. Like you could do anything you want and people would buy it. It doesn't. It's all, you know. It's whatever.
That's fantastic.
Some of us actually are able to add value, but the majority are just, you know, I don't know what they're doing. And neither do the people that buy the services. It's just like on the budget. There's just, we should buy this stuff. Sure, great. So yeah, I started picking up little one-liners like 90% of the value in focusing is focus itself. Only 10% is choosing the right thing. So I think it's given me the freedom to experiment with things. I try to pass that along to the people I'm working with, a certain indifference to success. Like you just have to choose something and go.
That's good.
And most of your ideas, sorry, are going to be trash.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll stumble upon one that works.
That's so good. You know, we both work in the agency world and see and experience a lot of the things that are going on, and it's an ever-changing landscape, to be sure.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it feels like every week there's something shifting or moving or growing or dying.
I felt like it was just yesterday. I thought inbound was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, right.
This is it. This is going to change the world. People will come to us.
And then.
Yeah. And then I went out on my own. I was like, wait a minute.
Right.
I'm hungry.
That's right. I have this amazing habit of liking to live indoors and eat, you know. Most people do.
Yeah. Not outside. Electricity, running water. Yeah, it's all good stuff.
Simple things.
And you got to get paid for that.
It's the only way to pay for it. So what trends do you see happening? I mean, you've been in agency world for a minute. You've got enough track that you can begin to spot trends. What are you seeing right now?
I mean, barely. Like I still have, like, you know, for like, I'm a younger guy. I talk to people that have been in the marketing space for 30, 40 years. I got nothing on them. Right. But in the last 10 years, just as a microcosm, I got in when inbound marketing was the thing, and people were really done with ads. They were like, look, there's too many ads. I don't trust your ads. I don't want to talk to your salespeople. Before that, I think it was like direct mail or something. I don't know. I wasn't around. But so people were done with ads, and you had, you know, search content, and people wanted to do their own research. And so there's this influx of people doing this one thing, content, and of course it gets abused, and then the content becomes trash, and then people don't trust the content. Now people aren't doing their own research. And so this trend is it's almost predictable. Anything that everyone jumps on, and you can tell they're going to jump on it because the people that are putting money into education in this space, the software companies, are telling you to do it. As soon as a software company tells you to do something as a professional service organization, you should get away from that. So you saw it with inbound, and then there's then the software companies were like, well, we need more features so we can sell more stuff to our existing clients. Then you had all these RevOp agency. Like, what is that? What is even that term? Oh, it means we can't make a decision of if we're going to help marketing, sales, or customer success or any of these other departments. So we're just going to wrap a buzzword around it. That's software companies saying they want to sell more features and they need an army to do it. Anyway, I get a little triggered on that stuff. The major trend is that people trusted content yesterday. Yeah. People only trust the people they trust today. And you know, I'm a fan of the buzzwords. Not really, but you know, I'm a fan of the buzzwords. You hear in things like ecosystem-led growth, near-bound, partner-led marketing. All of this stuff to say that if you're not creating content with the people that already have the trust of your buyers, aka their peers, the people that already have trust with them somehow, then you're doing it wrong. They're not going to trust your content. They're not going to trust Mary the marketer that's in your dark back room writing your blogs or doing your videos or whatever. Figure out a way to be next to, work with, be introduced by, collaborate on projects with the people that already have the trust of your buyers. That's the trend. And I mean, geez, the AI thing. Look, this over the course of 1 year, you saw every agency jump on this leverage AI to hobbity ha. And now it's table stakes. Now everything has AI, and people are already saying, like, get AI out of your positioning. It says nothing.
Yeah.
So, I think there will always be a trend. I think it is set by technology. Then there's a wave of professional services behind it. And these things go up and down. What I keep saying, though, is that there will always be disruption, and the rate of disruption is only increasing. During any time of disruption, the value of being able to make better business decisions goes up. If the answer is clear, you don't need help making a decision. Like AI, you should use AI. Great, thanks, Max. What an opinion. Let's pay you for your consulting. You told us to use AI. Very good. No, the value of decisions go up when there's crazy amount of disruption and companies don't know what to spend money on. And so I think we're in that space right now where there's a million things going on. People know there's disruption in the economy. There's an election coming up. There's AI is a disruptor. There's changing buyer behaviors, and companies are sitting there going, hey, everything that we invested in isn't working. We need somebody with an outside perspective to help us make decisions. That's consulting, that's advisory. That's a true business partnership, and that requires some skills in facilitation, business acumen, empathy, listening.
And that's what you do.
Yeah, I try to make marketers not marketers.
But instead make them.
Well, I mean, look, you can be a nerd with your nerds. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But but it can't be your whole, like when people say, like, don't make it your whole personality. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because then you can't hang out with anybody.
Right.
So marketers have this problem of living in the microcosm of the marketing budget. They don't see churn coming because they don't realize that sales, operations, HR, any weird finance, they could all take budget from you. There's only so much money to go around. And so they think they've got a handle on things because they talk to the CMO. Then the CMO leaves or gets fired, which, by the way, they don't have a very long tenure. And you're left with no understanding or relationship with the other decision makers. So a big problem is that you don't have access to the people that make decisions about budget. You need to get access to those people, and you will last about 0.5 seconds in a conversation with a head of sales about marketing. Like, they don't want to talk about marketing. They don't care about marketing. So even though that's your passion, that's your expertise, you need to figure out a way to hold a conversation with someone that does not care. And it's really easy. All you got to do is listen. You got to ask questions like, what's important to you? Just, you got to be able to listen. And that's empathy. That's, psychology and these sorts of things.
Sure.
And that's what consulting is just you're helping people identify what's most important and make decisions about that thing.
That's it. So an agency comes to you and they want to begin to take a step in this direction. Where do you start?
Show me your account list and point at the ones where you have access to leadership. Like, start in reality. Like, everything I just said is very, very theoretical. Start in reality. You've got current clients. The worst thing that could happen to those clients is they churn. The best thing that could happen is that you discover some new initiative and you're able to upsell or cross-sell your services. So point them out. And I guarantee every agency that looks at their accounts will not have access to every member of the leadership team. They will not know their current initiatives that they are committed to in Q4. I don't know when this episode's going to come out, but it's September. And we're just about to get into the most important planning time for any organization for the most part.
Yep.
What is your plan for getting all of them in a room, telling you what they are going to spend money on? That is the correct question to ask. The answer can be quite creative. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but the correct question is, how am I going to get the decision makers that decide on budget, not just mine, into a room talking about what is most important to them?
Brilliant. I'm curious, as you walk people through this process and they begin to kind of have the blinders taken off, so to speak, and begin to see what you're seeing, what is the response like? Like, as they begin to see what they haven't seen before and begin to look at this differently, how do they typically respond, your clients?
Look, I'm still attracted to the agency space because of the quality of people. We're awesome people. We are we're approachable. We like hanging out with one another. We like helping one another.
Yeah.
But we survive on self-manufactured confidence. Agency owners are like, if you talk to an agency owner, 99% of them will be supremely confident that they are the best in the world at doing what they do. And they have to be, because if they don't project that confidence to their clients, who again understand nothing about what they do,
Yeah.
how do you, what are you buying based off of? You're buying off of the confidence of those leaders. So you go into an agency owner and you say, hey, good try. You could actually be delivering a better service or doing it a better way. Yeah, it's not met generally with open arms. It's very different than saying, wow, you have such a great service. You're like, more people should know about this. That's why you have all these people helping agencies with demand generation or branding, because there's so much pride in what they have, and yet they're not getting the recognition that they need. That's poking on pride. I don't think that's the biggest opportunity. I think the biggest opportunity lies with the existing clients, and the idea that they're going to admit to themselves that they've been doing themselves a disservice, that they've never hired somebody for help in that area. It takes a certain type of someone to invest in performing a service better. They hold on to it for dear life.
And yet we know growth only happens on the other side of change. We know
But
that
people don't want
improvement
to be
always
told how to do
requires
their
that.
job.
Granted, totally. I get that. I totally get that. But if our perspective is always, how do I make it better? How do I do this better? If we keep that mindset, in my view, that's a game changer. The minute you
Well,
begin
yeah.
to calcify and like this becomes set in concrete, and this is how we do it here, and we're not come in here and tell me how to. We lose the teachable spirit that makes I think what marketers do so valuable. They're always looking, always learning, always growing, always pivoting and adapting, right?
Well,
At
I
least
mean,
the
if
successful
that were
ones.
true, you and I would be out of a job. There would be no show, right?
And we can shut it down right now. Thanks for
Yeah,
being
no,
here.
like
That's right.
we could say that all day long, that like, sure, we're constantly learning. When push comes to shove, I've been in 10 years of changing the way they deliver a service, which is the thing that they've never really looked at and said that's the problem. They've always wanted more clients. They've gotten outside help with their marketing, with sales, and these sorts of things. The way they help their clients, that's like the foundation. That's like their core skill.
Yeah.
Of what they do. So it's just there's a lot of resistance there. I've found.
So when you find somebody who is willing to listen and adapt and put into practice what you're talking about, then what?
Yeah. So
Where do you
beyond the
see that
personal, beyond
Yeah.
the, okay. So let's talk to the 10% of the audience is like, hey man, I get it. Yeah, I'd like to learn.
Yeah.
Then you're met with a lot of the rationalization or limiting beliefs. My clients would never pay for that. We're already getting most of the budget. Basically, every limiting belief that comes from not actually having real conversations with the other decision makers. They believe there's limited budget because they've never talked to any of the other people that have budget and learn what asinine nonsense they're spending money on.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
So yeah, I think it's a lack of perspective because they haven't had any business conversations with their clients. They've only had marketing conversations, and you're not invited to the decision maker table if you can only have a marketing conversation. You're invited to the vendor table.
Yes.
Where they come over and they say, we're trying to buy these things. Would you vend them to me?
That, Max, I think is incredibly insightful. The difference between the vendor table and the leadership table.
Yeah, the adult table and the kiddie table with the plastic chairs and the color and the crayons.
And there's a mental image.
Yeah. It's like they might as well just give you the RFP and like a set of crayons, and you can just like color in the dots.
Mhm.
It's already decided. You're wasting your time.
So somebody wants to make this turn. They're in that 10%. And they say, hey, okay, this makes some sense. What's the first step?
Call up your client and say, hey, how can I be more valuable to the strategy work that you're doing, to planning? Right now in Q4, we know they got planning coming up.
Yep.
What industry insights? Hey, we're really close to your buyers. We work with a lot of organizations like yours. Is there anything that we could do that would make your planning sessions more insightful, that we could add value? You know what they're going to say? Wait, you can tell us about what our competitors are doing? And then you're going to go, ooh, that's a good idea. And then you're going to call up someone like Pete Caputa that has like benchmark surveys, and you're like, shit, can we get some industry information like really quickly? Yeah, you do a benchmark survey. Look, they unanimously, regardless of their role, every person on the leadership team will want to know things about their competitors and their buyers.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a seat at that table that doesn't care about their buyers and their competitors. Go out there and interview them. Go out there and survey them. Use AI or some data thing, but not to like cannibalize your communication and make it non-human nonsense. Go and collect information that's usable by the leadership team. But it starts with going and asking them what is most valuable. And that's what people aren't doing. You got to pick up the phone.
Solid.
I was interviewing Steve Patty. And, he talks about this outside in service design. We're both service designers, and you got to start with the fact that I have no idea what your buyers want. Mm-hmm. I kind of do because I talk to a lot of them, but why don't you go talk to them and ask them? Mm-hmm. What are they spending money on? What are the budget line items for 2025, that you're focused on, and why?
Where's the pain?
Yeah, where's the pain? And you know what? You got to be vulnerable. They might not say the word landing page or blog or
even SEO.
Email campaign. Right. Like that might not be a part of the conversation because no one cares.
They just want to address the pain.
Yeah. So I think there's in all fairness, I think there's a lack of education, a lack of exposure around this. Yeah. The people with the biggest microphone and eyeballs on them are the software companies. And they make zero money if an agency is able to go in there and run a workshop with their leadership team and help them inform decisions. Nobody makes money, but you convince them that they need 10,000 email campaigns and 40,000 marketing contacts. Someone's making some money.
Solid point. So Max, let me turn to you for a minute. You have to lead at a higher level today than you did a few years ago. And 5 years from now, you're going to have to lead at a different level yet. When it comes to the team that you work with, your clients, how do you stay on top of your game? How do you level up with new skills that you're going to need as a leader?
I mean, I think it's the same way I've been doing it for the last 10 years. Assume I know nothing and continue to talk to people. I probably interview,
that's good.
I don't know, at least one person a day. And then I look through that content. I listen to my own stuff, which is weirdly narcissistic, but I do listen to my own stuff. Like on my way to golf, I'll listen to an interview that I did with somebody, but not because like I'm saying smart stuff.
Yeah.
But because the stuff that they talk about, like for years, I went to my grandfather's retirement home and sat at the table with like titans of industry, like people that like ran like giant banks and car dealerships, like people that were the head, the pinnacle of their time in business. And I would just listen to them tell their stories. I was the only person under 90 that was sitting at those tables every single week. So I just listen to people, and the wisdom that you can pick up just from listening to people. Leading, oh man, leading honestly is a lot of work. I'm not sure I am a good leader because I am I only have one approach to leading, and that is doing. You can follow me if you want, but I'm going this way. And I try to educate people and be as open as I can about why I'm doing things, where I learned that, where they can learn that. But I try to set an example of like, I still don't know what I'm talking about. most of the things I do are wrong, but I do them so quickly and I make decisions that occasionally I stumble across something that works. And I guess that's my style of leadership, is like, stop thinking so much, pull some triggers. And if you're scared of that, then just follow my lead.
How do you develop people on your team? How do you develop new leaders?
Probably not the answer you're looking for, but I don't.
Okay.
I go find people that are self-motivated, self-organized, folks that are in you can find somebody that's a good leader by finding somebody that like my business partner basically on her own raised two twins, a girl and a boy. I never have to worry about her. Like you've seen some things.
Yes, you have.
You know what I mean? So at this point, like, I think you're either born with it and you have that knack for learning, or you don't. And I don't need to invest in those people. It's enough of an investment for me to align myself with them and spend time together like we are here. I know it'll be a well worth investment, but like, I don't have to develop you, Will. We don't have to work on you together. And I think there's enough people out there, if you're having those conversations and if you're expanding your network, you know, I try to find people that don't need to be led, but will be additive, you know, to your life. And it's the sharing of that expertise and the sharing of motivation, being able to pick each other up when one of them, you know, falls down. Maybe it's an approach of collective leadership.
So what do you want most in your business?
Psychological stability.
And
I want to be able to wake up and be present. You ever wake up and not be present?
100%.
Yeah, happens all the time. So I really try to measure my progress based on like how I feel. Like if I can wake up in the morning and okay, I have a couple calls, but I want to go to the zoo. I want to take my kids to the zoo. Now I can make that decision, but am I going to be like actually there, or am I going to be on the phone and paranoid and stressed, you know, about all these things? And so it comes back to me having a very clear planning cycle, an annual plan. I really don't go past annual plans. I'm still young. I got a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. I got no 3-year plans except to survive. You know, I got time. I'm young. But in any given year, you know, we might, like a few years ago, we decided we were going to take every third month off. And so that has a trickle down effect to the business model, the ideal client that we're going after, the types of services that we can provide, how we organize those services. So I try to start with something that's very personal, balance focused, like exercising more or eating right. Those two things have never been a part of the equation, but I do hope that someday I choose those. More like playing a lot of golf, or like, you know, being around for the first year of my daughter being alive. And yeah, those are the things that I'm prioritizing and trying to measure progress on. But you know, even when you make those decisions and you're not able to be present and just emotionally strong, it's not worth it. And so, you know, it takes a while to figure out what gives you energy, what takes your energy, what you can and can't do, how to set up barriers around those things.
That's good. What's the biggest thing you've learned in the last year?
No matter how bad it gets, like, we'll probably survive. It's not that big a deal.
Good perspective.
It's just a blip on the radar. You're young. You haven't failed like other people have failed.
It's all perspective.
Yeah, like you can go find somebody that screwed it up way worse than you, you know, and you're like, well, all right. Well, I either got a long way to go, you know, and I got some tough road ahead. But you know, we get so caught up in like, oh my God, look at me, and you know, I do too. I'm not trying to speak from like this altruistic, like I've got it all figured out. But like in retrospect, like it's fine. It can be okay.
Is there a book that has made a big difference in your journey that you'd recommend?
Yeah, I forget who wrote it, but like a long time ago, I read this book called You Inc. All about, you know, selling yourself, treating yourself like it turns out it's like talking about personal branding and empathy and getting people to like you. So that was like a long time ago. I forgot who wrote it, but we can Google it, right?
Yes, we can.
But other than that, in the agency space, I've always been a huge fan of David Baker. And so I'd go Business of Expertise, the Red Book, For the Win. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's been some others, but I think, well, to your point about agency trends or trends in marketing, business development, Jared Fuller recently put out this Nearbound, and despite the world not needing any more buzzwords, this is all about like how people are getting away from using content as a way to do their own research because they don't trust it, because it's probably AI or some marketer in a back room somewhere that's writing that stuff, and all about leveraging partnerships for any go-to-market motion, whether it's marketing, sales, customer success, like really integrating a partnership first mindset.
You know, my dad started a traditional advertising agency back in the 70s, and billboards, radio, newspapers, right? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that was, as a kid, you know, you hear the mantras, you know, you do business with people that you know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
That hasn't changed. And that's what I'm thinking of when you're talking about the Nearbound book. I mean, it's still, you do business with people that you know, like, and trust.
But it is harder because there's so much fakery.
Yeah. Now
it is harder to develop that trust.
It's true.
And, but a shortcut is to find people they already trust.
And if a shortcut's going to help you go a little farther and get there a little faster.
Faster. Yeah. That's the game we play.
Max, this has been fascinating. And as we wrap this up, I mean, I know people are going to want to stay connected to you and continue to learn more about what you do and what you're sharing, what you're learning. What is the best way for people to connect with you?
LinkedIn. It's basically the only place I hang out. LinkedIn/Max Traylor or whatever it is. LinkedIn/in/Max Traylor. Like it's spelled on the video, TRAYLOR. I do live get-togethers like once a month. I post a lot of clips. Probably be posting some of these. But yeah, that's the best way to get to know my stuff. Shoot me a DM, all those things.
Nice. We'll have that link in the show notes. Max,
cheers. Thanks for having me.
being here, man, for sharing so honestly and openly. It's just so helpful. Really.
Well, thanks for asking some deep questions.
That's what I do. Thanks for joining me for this episode today. As we wrap up, I'd love for you to do two things. First, subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if you find value here, I'd love it if you would rate it and review it. That really does make a difference in helping other people to discover this podcast. Second, if you don't have a copy of my newest book, Catalytic Leadership, I'd love to put a copy in your hands. If you go to catalyticleadershipbook.com, you can get a copy for free. Just pay the shipping so I can get it to you, and we'll get one right out. My goal is to put this into the hands of as many leaders as possible. This book captures principles that I've learned in 20 plus years of coaching leaders in the entrepreneurial space, in business, government, nonprofits, education, and the local church. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn to keep up with what I'm currently learning and thinking about. And if you're ready to take a next step with a coach to help you intentionally grow and thrive as a leader, I'd be honored to help you. Just go to catalyticleadership.net to book a call with me. Stay tuned for our next episode next week. Until then, as always, leaders, choose to be catalytic.
Thanks for listening to Catalytic Leadership with Dr. William Attaway. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss the next episode. Want more? Go to catalyticleadership.net.